YouTube, welcome back again. Thank you for joining us for the penultimate, our final part of going over standings preview for the upcoming season. Again, joined by Zane here as we wrap out the final part. We'll go over the Atlantic Division today and let you know kind of who we see falling where and who's making the playoffs, moreover. So before we get into it, I want to say if you like the content, give us a like. Make sure to subscribe to see what we have coming up beyond this as well. And moreover, thank you for the support on recent videos as well. I think I can speak on behalf of both of us to say that we've been pretty blown away. So thank you all for that. But that said, Zane, you want to get us started with our bottom team from last year, the Boston Bruins?
Yeah, it sounds kind of shocking to say, honestly. But yeah, the Boston Bruins, right? Like, kind of came out of nowhere. They weren't that bad the whole season, and then they kind of sold off and committed to the tank. I know that after the Four Nations, McAvoy was gone too for a large portion.
Yeah, that don't help.
End of theirs. Yeah, that one of their best defenders definitely doesn't help, and they just tanked to the bottom of that impressively, even below the Sabres, which I thought was kind of incredible.
Yeah, they did an excellent job tanking.
Can they be better than the Sabres on the other, but they can tank better. I mean, Sabres. What are we gotta get something. Anyways, now
Buffalo stays taking L's.
Yeah, sorry, Buffalo fans. I liked your. Well, I did like a lot of your players. They're not on the board. I don't know why I listed the board. I think that was a little bit of a tease. They're not on the board, and I don't know where this team goes from here. I mean, they added some weird. I mean, not weird. Sorry, that's not accurate. They added some decent players. They added Arvidsson, middle six players, AC Mont, Tanner Jeannot. But like that's kind of what their team is: middle six players.
Yeah.
Besides, obviously, Pastrnak, who's an elite all-star, who's
sixer,
like the engine.
If you ask me.
That makes the whole team go, but then the rest is just kind of middle sixers, and I think they're kind of stuck, and that's why they're stuck, is they don't really have the next punch. They just have a right hand. They just have Pastrnak.
Yeah.
And their defense is solid. I'll give them that. But that Hampus Lindholm season from 2 years ago isn't happening again. At least I don't think.
I think it might even have been 3 years ago for the record.
3 years ago. Yeah.
When he was good is what you're saying.
Yeah, like you're not getting that, like with that season, and we're like, holy shit, where does Hampus Lindholm, like we didn't know he had this in the tank. Clearly doesn't anymore. But I'm curious to see where I think that's the most intriguing part, if I'm going to talk positively about the Bruins, is their defense. I think their defensive core is actually really solid still. They've always had a really solid D core. They have a good D system, kind of like Carolina.
Historically, at least, yeah.
Yeah, so their defense never seemingly is a big issue for me. So I don't think it'll be next year. I think it mostly like their offense, and Swayman didn't have his Swayman season. He didn't have the Swayness, his Swayman Linus season that they had together. Those numbers were not replicated last year. He did not play great for them. I know they're really liking the way DiPietro is playing. He's kind of retread isn't the right word. He hasn't been. I don't think he's been really given a fair leash everywhere he's gone, but he really hasn't succeeded anywhere he's gone, or really stood out, I guess. I don't think he's been horrific or terrible. He's just kind of been average. So I don't know. Well, the goalie that's out for the juror, but like to win games, you got to score the puck. And other than Pastrnak, who's scoring the puck on this team at a consistent basis? We saw it last year. I mean, they go dead for long, long stretches.
Yep. Yeah, they certainly do. I'm trying to think, like, just if I can answer the question of who is scoring other than Pastrnak. And, there's not a great answer. Like, I'm going to say, like, Morgan Geekie and Casey Middlestat, because I think they both earned the right to be in that conversation at the end of last season. But I agree with, like, what you're saying. And I'll throw Matt Patra in there, too, I guess, because he seemed competent 2 years ago, I think that was. that he's made the NHL kind of surprisingly. Not positive, but either way, he definitely has potential. And I will call out, to add to AHLers that might deserve mentioning, Fabian Lysell. They should be giving him a shot this year for sure, in my opinion, for sure. But we'll see how that might go. Anyway, yeah, there's no bona fide names as far as like offensive producers.
Just a lot of middle six.
Yeah, exactly.
Middle six.
I do still, like, part of me still holds out hope for Lindholm, that he can find that form, but like, I don't know. I was a big Lindholm believer going into last season, and frankly, he gave me every reason to think that I shouldn't be, honestly. So like, yeah, it's hard to know what to make of it, I should say. One thing I will say, big fan of Fraser Minton being on the Boston Bruins. I think that's a Boston favorite for years to come. Part of me still holds out hope that Johnny Beecher has something else to give. But again, like, I don't think his play is what makes me say that. I think that's literally just bias from his draft year because I liked him then. But anywho, but yeah, kind of to your point, weird signings. I do think that's fair. I think Tanner Jeannot is the weirdest one of maybe the entire offseason, in all honesty. I think that was one of the weirdest contracts signed. So, go off. What's the dang GM's name again? How am I forgetting his name? But
me too. Don? No,
Sweeney? Don Sweeney's the GM. Cam Neely's the president. So yeah, go off on that one. Don Sweeney, that's a weird one, but I guess we'll see. For the record, I have them last in the division. And that's, I just, like, based on last season, I don't think they got better. I honestly, too, I do not agree with you about their decor. But I don't think I said it much in the breakouts video when we were talking about Mason Lohrei. Maybe I did, actually. I'm a big Mason Lohrei hater. Either way, regardless of whether or not I've said it before, I do not have faith in Mason Lohrei as a defenseman. So that is tainting this. And moreover, there's like some bias about Henry Jokiharju as well. Although admittedly, when he was on the Blackhawks, I was a big fan of Henry Jokiharju. But he has not taken a single step forward since he was on the Blackhawks, in my opinion. So, yeah. And Andrew Peeke, I think, is meh. And then you have Zadorov, who seemed like really bad for the Bruins at times last year. So,
like, and not even like, I don't think he was really costly defensively. Like, costly the penalties he took, and like, I don't like.
Yeah, and in the room, I think sometimes it raised an eyebrow for me too. Like some of the comments he made after the game, and he like backtracked those comments. Like, I would be remiss not to point that out, but like, he had a couple interviews that I was like, yo, do you hate your teammates, brother? Like, is something not going well? I guess a lot wasn't going right. Answer my own question. Anyway, so I'm not a big fan. I do agree certainly with the sentiment that they always have a good defensive system. And I do think that Jeremy Swayman this year will not be the Jeremy Swayman that we saw last year. I think the contract situation kind of threw off the whole vibe. So I think the on ice product is probably a little better.
Particularly, it doesn't take much to like knock them off their center.
Yeah. I do think the overall on ice product will be better, but I think this team, I just don't see a team that's worse than them, frankly. Not on paper, at least. We're literally about to get to them next here, but you can't ever count out Buffalo in the Tankathon. So that said, should we move on to Buffalo?
Yeah, we can talk about Buffalo. We certainly can. There is no teaser here. Not picking up that board. There's no segue or anything. I mean, it feels like they're not trying to make the playoffs. So why would they make them? I mean, they have. Well, it's so crazy to me because Tage Thompson is like a bona fide. Yeah, exactly. Himothy, You have him and like just wasting his. I don't know. Like, what do you do? Like, you have Krebs. You have these really decent players, and you just like. They had Cousins. He's gone. They have Norris. Again, Norris isn't bad, but I think Cousins is just a better version of Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like they got Josh Doe. Like, are they again collecting young players to do what with? If we're like, what's the vision? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, and like solely for that reason, I don't buy it. I don't buy, I
Yeah.
think UPL. I think their goaltending isn't actually a problem. UPL I like Pekka Luukkonen. UPL I don't mind. Their defense, obviously they added what they. I think I put Boa Byram on my breakouts. I think
You
he'll have a
did.
good year.
Yeah.
Darlene, obviously, great player.
Stud.
Can't ignore him. Owen Power, like their defense is fine. Again, kind of similar to the Bruins. I think, if you were to look at these teams like maybe 1 or 2 years ago, you'd be like, oh wow, the Buffalo Sabres future is looking so much more promising.
Brighter than the sun,
Now,
yeah.
yeah, now I just like kind of similar. I'm like, okay, you do have, but these are all like flyer players now. You have Doan,
Yeah.
and like players that you're still looking to take steps.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
You have scorers, you have good players. They're missing what they've always been missing, and that's some sort of identity factor.
Yeah, a sure thing. I think you said it pretty concisely there. There's a lot of guys that you're kind of banking on taking a step here. I think that's super valid.
But yeah, other than that, I don't have them making the playoffs, and frankly, I think they're not really moving anywhere. I think they're kind of stagnating. I think they're doing the same thing they did this year.
Well, appropriately enough, that'll be my cue because I have them finishing in the same spot that they finished last year, hardly ahead of the Bruins. Yeah, and I agree with everything you said too. And I think I'll add like the ownership, the Pagulas, I think have deserve to be in the conversation of why this team is stagnating and stinking. Moreover, and I think the front office in general, I think deserves some of that too. Like the very messy parting with JJ Peterka that frankly shouldn't have happened. Just, you look at it on paper, in my opinion, Josh Doan and Kesselring for Peterka is a losing trade. And if reports are to be taken at face value, it is mostly because JJ Peterka wanted to go to the club and liked to have fun that he was traded. So that's weird, obviously. But anyway, just a whole bunch of messiness in the front office, and I think poor decision making. Frankly, this might be a little over the top for me, but it feels like the front office isn't bought in to the team. I think it was last season, right, that it was someone in the front office of the Panthers was like, or pardon me, the Sabres, someone was like, oh, we don't have palm trees, whatever. You remember that quote? I'm pretty sure that was last offseason. That's a loser mindset, in my opinion. And like, yeah, Buffalo's like not the most beautiful place in the world, I guess, but if
we're
you're
talking about like early 2000s, hockey was banging there. You had the
huge,
Ryan Miller years, the Palm Nevilles, the Novaks, right? Thomas Novak, like that was his name. I forget.
It's not Novak, but I know who you're talking. Vanek, Thomas Vanek, Derek
Thomas
Roy,
Vanek. Sorry,
Tyler Myers.
Yeah, like you
Ryan
had
Miller,
some banger teams there. And people like when Buffalo's good, it's fun. Buffalo has
absolutely. Especially now, like I this is like kind of a silly thing to mention when we're talking about where they might be in the standings, but they need to lean into the goat head drip, dude. Like it's one of the best looking jerseys in the league, maybe the best.
And the players, it's an identity. That team had an identity then.
Yeah, the players have said that they feel like undefeatable in those jerseys. And I know they're probably saying that like kind of tongue in cheek, but like, yo, Buffalo, you kind of need to grasp onto anything you can at this point. Lean into something, dude. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. 100%. But anyway, all that said, I still like a lot of these players individually. I just don't have. I also would be remiss not to call out, I think Lindy Ruff being the coach of this team was and is still a mistake. I don't get that, honestly. That to me feels
that one's confusing.
Yeah, I don't know, like I don't even follow baseball very closely. Moreover, I don't know how many of our viewers might, but that feels like the White Sox hiring Tony La Russa back in 2020 or 2021, I think it was. Like, how is that the guy that you feel fits this group of players? I don't see the connection genuinely, but
Well, if to me, like we would kind of were just saying it, like grabbing at straws, but like that's the thing, you're grabbing at Lindy Rupp. Like,
yeah, like
why is
there's
that the
get
straw?
somebody
You're
from the
like,
AHL or something if that's your mindset here. I feel
yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't know.
and
It
like,
doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, that's another like retread. That's just like he's already proven that he's good,
Yeah. I
but
feel like you
that's
know what to
it.
expect out of him. And he
Yeah,
hadn't done
it's
well in New Jersey anyway. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, like I do understand the reasoning that you're saying. Don't mistake me. I just don't think it made sense for the Sabres.
no.
Anyway, I was saying I do still like a lot of these players individually. And I'll call out, play devil's advocate a little bit here. Last year when they made this trade for Ryan McLeod, I was like, that's one of the dumbest trades I've ever seen. You traded a guy with a much higher ceiling for a speedy bottom sixer. And I think that it was a great move now, a year removed from it. I think that was a great trade. So I can't help but wonder maybe the Josh Doan and Kesselring trade ends up aging well similarly.
Better for them. Yeah,
Yep.
true.
I'll be interested to see that. Also, we were shouting out Luke Hughes as a New Hampshire product. Shout out Michael Kesselring, bona fide, born and raised New Hampshire product. Dog. Anyway, yeah, I'm a big fan of this decor as well, although I still think that there's some awkward fit that they need to figure out. And I'm a big fan of Devin Levi, even though he hasn't figured it out at the NHL level. But Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen seemed more than serviceable, and I didn't realize that they got Alex Lyon as a backup, and I'm a big fan of him too. So I see the pieces, but just like them, I don't think I see the direction. I don't think I see how they put the pieces together, and I
Yeah.
don't think they see it either. So
It always has felt like the opposite of like the sum of the parts, are
yeah.
greater than the whole. Like the sum of the parts are greater than the whole, and that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
Like it
that's
feels like
exactly the
on
case
paper
here.
this
Yeah.
team slaps, but every year the team product trash. It's
Yeah,
just like
dog
not
water,
not
dude.
quite able to take it over the hill for some reason.
Yep. Yeah, but I
Weird.
guess we'll see. But yeah, again, I have them. What is this, like seventh in the division? I think so.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah, next. It really feels weird because at the bottom of this Atlantic, it's just a lot of confusion, right? Like
Yeah,
before last year, would anybody would have thought the Bruins were on the bottom? Like I was saying, no. Sabres,
yeah.
maybe. But the Red Wings too, down here, it's sixth in the Atlantic last year, and that's another one that's just like, what's the Yzer plan really kind of stalling out. I'd like to me one of the worst things they did last offseason was trade Wallman for peanuts. Like maybe if Wallman doesn't work out in the system, that's fine.
Yeah.
But he got traded for peanuts, performed in San Jose, and then
Not
got flipped
even.
for like a second. Yeah,
Didn't even get traded. He got traded for literally nothing. They gave up assets to
future
get rid of him.
convinced.
They gave up I think a second round pick and Wallman for nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's literally worse than trading him for peanuts. Like,
And I just think like hindsight's 2020, but still that is someone that everybody thought was a higher end, medium high end, like everybody, it was felt like a consensus that he was a good NHL player.
serviceable at least.
So, nevertheless, less about that because that was like a Sharks thing, but that felt like a sign to come. And like, I don't know. Again, the team is constructed in a way you would look at it and be like, yeah, this could be a playoff team. DeBrincat, he's played well since he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
You have Kopp, who's I think is a solid player. Dylan Larkin, which like I don't know how you feel about Dylan Larkin. I think he's a great player. Always shows up pretty solid. Not crazy. 70 points last year, 69 points the year before, 79, 60 consistent. Which you love to see. But I again, it doesn't. For whatever reason, and I think their reason mostly is goaltending. Especially more recently, hasn't been great.
It's always been a
Um,
question mark, and it hasn't
yeah,
ended well. Yeah.
it just hasn't gone well. They've had a few, close to good goalies, and I think they're gonna probably hope John Gibson goes back to like form, or at least
Yeah.
what he once was.
Yep.
There you're hoping the change of scenery from one shitty defensive team to another isn't, a PTSD flashback and he just, plays the same. But no, I think you're hoping for a Gibson bounce back. I think that's what they're hoping for. Otherwise, I mean, Talbot. Okay.
This
Yeah.
goaltending tandem back in like 2016 would have been insane, dude.
That is so good. Again, their defense, like, I like Moritz. He's on my fantasy. He's been on a couple of my fantasy teams. Really good. I like him. But the rest of it kind of falls off. You don't have a whole lot, and I think they Axel Sandin Palika, is he coming in this year?
um
Um,
I don't know if I've heard. I would think so, but I don't know if I've heard either way. Wouldn't be too surprised
okay,
if he starts in the AHL at the very least, though.
gotcha. Because I know Hamonic signed a contract as well with the Red Wings recently. Maybe not even recently. Maybe that was a while ago.
Hmm.
But he'll be there. He's always been a solid defensive player, but like that was years and years ago. Who knows what we're gonna get? And I don't think he even played last year.
Who is that again? I'm sorry.
Travis Hamonic.
Oh, that's right. That is right. Yeah, I saw that just the other day, right?
Yeah. So I don't know. Like I think, like I said, their offense is good. And
Hmm.
just the rest of the team, I'm not sure about. Defense is shaky, goaltending is shaky. Like they have good top end D, but they're sort of, other than their top two, even maybe their three
Yep.
defensemen, there's left a lot to be desired. So I don't have them making it on the board. Wow, that was the longest I went without saying. They're not on here. That was probably obvious by the way I was talking about them. Like I said, they're a good team. I still expect Marco Casper to put up numbers for this team.
Yep.
They could get in, but personally, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm with you. For the record, ironically, all the bottom three teams I have in the same order, which I didn't realize until we started talking. But yeah, I have them sixth in the division. I think that is missing the playoffs as well. And although I will say, Detroit fans, any of you that still exist after the last decade plus of misery, I will say, I wanted them. I've told Zane this many times, but when I started putting my list together, I just listed out 16 teams that I think have a chance at making the playoffs, and I ended up with 6 teams from the Atlantic. Detroit was the 6th team, and I felt the need to cut them afterwards. So spoiler alert for the rest of this video from me, I guess. But anyway, so I do think that there's a chance here. I think that they'll be close. But I do agree with everything that you were saying too, Zane. I think a lot needs to go right for them to make that work, and I don't know, like not the same sort of problem as Buffalo, but I'm gonna say something similar. I see the pieces to make it work here for the most part, mostly in the forward group and in goal, but not who they have in goal. So anyway, let me stop being so vague. I like a lot of the prospects in their system. I'm a big fan of Nate Danielson. Yes. I'm a big fan of Axel Sandin Palika. I'm a big fan of Sebastian Cossa. I think all of those guys could probably help them win games in the NHL. Currently, I don't know if that's what the Red Wings are going to do. It kind of doesn't look like it, but they do have some like bubble NHLers on this lineup on daily faceoff still, like Berggren, who has high pedigree, but it hasn't, he hasn't blown the doors off or anything like that. Yeah. Elmer Soderblom, there's potential for him to kind of be back and forth, I would think, between the AHL and NHL. I mean, outside of that, though, you probably have a lot of guys that like aren't moving, so it's not a whole lot of space in the forward group. In the defensive group, they got somebody named Albert Johansson, who I did not know plays in the NHL until right now. Played 61 games with them last year, had 9 points, and I was trying to pull up his like defensive metrics, but didn't get it up in time. I have to assume that he's a decent defensive defenseman
to play 61. Yeah.
Yep. And I think Jacob Bernard Docker is a good player too. But Eric Gustafsson is a liability defensively. Good like power play guy, but like I'm not seeing a Stanley Cup winning team that has Eric Gustafsson on it, if I'm being honest. So like, I just don't. I don't think that Detroit has it. I think that they could maybe
No.
take a step, but I still don't see them winning the Stanley Cup unless like some
You
kind of
would hope.
anomaly
I feel
happens.
like if they don't do better than they did last
Yeah.
season, then like people are gonna be out with pitchforks. Like, guys are playing. Where are we going? Where are we
Yeah, I
at?
don't
You
know,
know?
man. I feel like if they're not at that point already, I don't even know. I don't know what they will like how they'll get to that point at this point, honestly. So like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, yeah, whatever. But yeah, I can't see how they take a big step. Well, pardon me, I can, but I think it's unlikely, is what I want to say here. I do agree. I think Dylan Larkin's a great player. I think Lucas Raymond might have like might go nuclear potentially. I didn't actually realize they signed James Van Riemsdyk, if I'm being honest, but I don't think that he moves the needle too much. Obviously, Patrick Kane is disgusting. If he does end up playing with Marco Casper and DeBrincat, oh my God, that might be gross all year. You're going to be looking real good if that's the case, brother. Tell you what.
That would be nice.
Yeah, but and I'm also a big fan of Moritz Seider. I think Moritz Seider is one of the best
Yeah.
defensemen in the NHL. So yeah, we'll see, man. I do also, part of me feels like my gut kind of tells me that John Gibson can have some return to form.
Gotta think,
But we'll
right?
see.
This guy's finally been able to not wear orange. You know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think for what it's worth too, before I get too far ahead of myself, I think that this was the team that I was the conference that I was the least sure of. I might have said that about the Metro too. The East is a little bit more of a wild card, pardon the phrasing,
Yeah.
for me entirely.
Because
But
like I said
yeah,
about the Red Wings, you could see these teams. You could see that. Like, I don't see
yeah,
it with the Sabres and the Bruins. I could see the Red Wings making a push. I could like
yeah. I
that.
mean, they
That'll make
almost made
history.
it this last year. They were right there.
There's some things that I could see that are like, yeah, that's possible. So like I
Hmm.
could see it, but yeah,
Hmm.
not for me.
Same,
Telling me to write it down, I don't got it.
same.
Um, yeah, that's the Red Wings. Next we have probably our favorite team together, the Montreal Canadiens. No, I'm just playing.
This channel's favorite team. We are a
And
Montreal
honestly, I'm
Canadiens
about to
channel.
throw out a huge olive branch here because they are making
Yeah,
the board.
yeah.
Um, they're making the board and not even in a wild card spot. I have them in the 3 seed in the Atlantic.
Yo, me too, dude.
I and see, this is funny because we joke about, we talked about, should it, the thou who shall not be named at this point. Um, and honestly, like, I am obsessed with this team. Obsessed
Yeah,
with this team this year. I always viewed the Habs as like a team that I just always gritted my teeth at.
yeah,
And I was just like, oh God, these guys, they're so annoying. Um, and I guess maybe them sucking for a while has kind of, washed that off of them a little bit.
sure.
Um, but man, I feel like this team is going to the moon.
Hmm.
If I'm being honest with you, I mean, they have Lane Hudson, who's incredible. Um, he's
No, he's
so
terrible.
good.
He's the worst defenseman in the NHL, dude. He's
He gives you
terrible.
anything what he gave you last year.
Didn't even get
You're looking
invited to
good
the Olympic
already.
camp today, dude. He's dog.
Yeah, little behind the curtains of when this is uploaded. Yeah, he didn't make that. He didn't get called. But yeah, man. I mean, this team is, and they added Noah Dobson, which
Yeah.
crazy. I think that's a really weird. I mean, for the Islanders' sake, I don't know why I don't know what was the urgency or why for Noah Dobson to get rid of him, but then the Canadians got him. Like, oh my God, that's good. And like some sneaky ads, like Sammy Blais here,
Huh.
annoying blues player. It fits right into that Gallagher style, Canadian style, annoying
Yeah. Yeah.
that they like to play. Cole Caulfield, as I said, Kirby Doc. I wanted, like, I'm ready. You got Demidov. The team looks incredible. I can't say it enough. Like, I'm really, Line was showing glimpses of, he is very
Yeah.
streaky, but he felt like he was showing glimpses of being more up than down.
Yep.
Um, you know, you're good this year. You make the playoffs. It doesn't matter what happened with Slavkovsky's draft. You can completely just be like, he's a solid player. We don't have to worry that we drafted him in a ridiculous position. Um, sorry, more heat. Oh
The
no.
pitchforks are coming back out for sure, dude. Oh no.
Yeah, what, oh god, what are they? No. So I think their offense is incredible. I think their defense is incredible. Like I think they'd sneaky. Like I said, they added Dobson, and I think you just add Dobson. You're looking great. You're looking
Yeah.
fantastic. Biggest question mark: the reason they're 3 and not 2 or 1, the way I'm talking about them, goaltending. Who's
Yeah.
who's stopping the puck? Montembeau. I hope he's good.
Yeah.
I hope he gives you decent numbers. They've added Capo Kakkonen. I've seen him. I wouldn't look to him as a way to solve your goaltending issues. Although I know goalies are weird, so he could turn it on.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've seen a couple years in San Jose and the last couple of years in Minnesota.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not very good.
Yeah.
So that's the only concern with this team I have is like I think the only thing preventing them from making a deep run is just goaltending. That's it. That's the only thing I got. That's why they're 3. That's not they're not higher. Yeah, I really like this team. They're hitting it off. They're having a great year. I think that's my prediction for them.
Yep. I agree with you. Like I said at the start, I also have them 3rd in the Atlantic here, but I'm gonna actually wax poetic about the Habs for a little while here. I do see some potential negatives, but yeah, kind of like you, I'm just gonna like go off about all the positives I hear, but I see a world where they could actually take this division. Honestly, just because like we'll talk about Toronto in a little bit, but obviously they've made some changes. Obviously they lost Mitch Marner. That's not a surprise, and I think that the rest of the division, just there's potential question marks. That I'll leave it at that for now. So I could see a world where this team, just like you were saying, everything falls into place for them, and they go ballistic. Like again, potentially win the division here. So that said, I also love this team. I love watching this team. I think that they are one of the most interesting teams heading into this season. I might be the biggest fan of Coach. Wow, Habs jersey on the screen. Wow. I might be the biggest fan of of Marty St. Louis, the coach.
Yeah.
In the New England area, at least. That's an almost definite, actually. But like I think Marty St. Louis should be getting
or Jack Adams honors.
Jack Adams votes, and probably like in the final consideration. I think he should have been in that conversation for the last 5 years, I think, at least, honestly. So, and I think the way like coaches in the NHL do not transition from rebuilding to competing. It just doesn't happen in the NHL anymore. And Marty St. Louis pulled that off, presumably, unless they fall off a cliff this year, which I don't see.
Unless we're absolutely wrong.
But he has pulled that off, and he grew with this team. He's adapted with the team. He has changed fundamentally the way that hockey is being played with the system that he runs and the hybrid like man-to-man switching that the Habs will do in the defensive zone. It's like he's so good. Absolutely the most underrated coach in my opinion. It's not up for debate, honestly, in my opinion. So yeah, big fan of Marty St. Louis. I think that he knows how to get more out of hockey players than almost any coach in the league, except for maybe like a Paul Maurice, but that's a totally different set of circumstances. But like genuinely, like I don't think this team is even close to where they are right now if it's not for Marty St. Louis. So that said, to talk about some players, you called out a lot of them. Zach Bolduc is one that I want to highlight. I buy into the Habs propaganda about Bolduc. I think that he could be a really underrated ad for them. Kind of like you were saying about Sammy Blais, though, like just brings a different element to what they have on this team. I'm really teetering on being no longer a Kirby Doc believer, if I'm honest. I didn't say that in the breakout video, I think, but um, I think like kind of objectively, like if Bro misses half the season again, like I think his NHL career is up for debate at that point,
He'll
honestly.
be a
So
journeyman. Like he'll
yeah,
be along those lines, I think,
yeah,
if he's
which
like sits out another long portion of the
yeah,
season.
which I hate for the record. No disrespect to Kirby Doc. I've got Kirby Doc's Blackhawks jersey hanging up in my closet. Moreover, was a fan of him with the Saskatoon Blades prior to him even being drafted by the Hawks. So big fan. Really hope that he pulls it out. I'm just not sure that that's where his career is heading. But anyway, outside of that, yeah, I agree with what you said about Line A. I love part of the dynamic of this team that they have the two snipers in Line A and Caulfield, and how much that opens up your ability to mix and match line combinations, especially come playoff time. But we're talking about regular season today. And I have become a big fan of Uri Slavkovsky. Obviously, we weren't doing YouTube back then, but I practically laughed the Canadians off the stage, so to speak, when I saw them draft Slavkovsky, because they unabashedly said that they drafted him because of his personality. And I just think that is so silly. But I really like the work that he put in last offseason. It didn't completely translate into on ice production this past season. But I do think that he's been making strides here, and as a power forward, it takes those guys a little bit extra time to find their game. You know, you look at Quentin Byfield out in LA, like it's a real thing for those bigger guys who play more of a power forward game to like really settle into their game. So I'm still, I am now, shouldn't say still because I wasn't at the start, but I am a big believer in Uri Slavkovsky at this point. And yeah, I think that's where I'll leave it on the forward group for now. We'll talk about the goalies and the defense a little bit, and then I'm going to pivot to some negatives, unfortunately, prepare myself for pain afterwards. But I am a huge fan of this decor as well, just like you said. I think they've got a little bit of everything that I'm looking for. I will say, I tweeted this like almost immediately after the trade, but having Hudson and Dobson I think is ever so slightly awkward when you're thinking about your power play structure, but it's certainly not enough for me to like not want to have them on the team. You know what I mean? Like I that's like that is an insane quarterback on your power play for both of your units,
Yes.
if nothing else.
And you can run them 1A, 1B. Not that we've ever seen that or that's ever been really
Sure,
successful.
but like I was just saying about Marty St. Louis adapting, like you know, I wouldn't write anything off, frankly. So I think my question between the two of them is who ends up with the most 5-on-5 time between Hudson and Dobson. You got to think it's probably Dobson that's getting more 5-on-5 time just because of tenure in the league. And you know, as we've said about Lane Hudson, you kind of expect people to be onto him a little bit more this year. But I still think that he's going to have a great season. I think Dobson will have a great season.
I don't personally remember saying that.
But yeah, so yeah, that's the question for me, because you're not putting Dobson and Hudson together. That feels like, unless they're on the power play together, I guess, but you're not putting them together at 5-on-5. That seems like a terrible decision. But Alex Carrier, big time underrated defenseman, I think. Mike Matheson has been underrated for years now. I'm not Caden Gooley's biggest fan, but a really, really good defenseman nonetheless. And Jaden Struble, again, like just totally serviceable. And they also have guys in the AHL. They have I'm losing my mind here. I don't know what words I'm looking for, but they have too many defensive prospects to even like name all of them in the AHL, but I'll call out David Reinbacher as one, which is just like, you know, they're salivating at the idea of David Reinbacher cracking the NHL finally. So Habs fans are, at least. And I would say I respectfully, only slightly, disagree with you about the goalies here. I think I also buy into the dialogue around Sam Montembeault in the Habs world. I think Sam Montembeault is an underrated goalie. Honestly, I think that he should have gotten more attention for Team Canada for the Four Nations last year. I wouldn't be too surprised if he gets a little bit of attention for the Olympics this year. Probably ends up being Jordan Binnington there again, honestly. But but he deserves attention there. I think that he put up a much better season than he was expected to last year, honestly. So yeah, I'm a believer in Sam Montembeault at this point. I'm also a believer in Dobish, Jakob Dobish as their backup.
Dobesh.
I think he's also very good at playing goalie. So we'll see how that all shakes out. Honestly, I don't claim to know the most about the goaltending position, but I like him. So all that to say, I'd be remiss not to call out a couple things that I think the Habs should be aware of as potential pitfalls this year. Anybody that follows me on Twitter will probably have seen me say this, but I am wary of a lackluster rookie season from Ivan Demidov. I think expectations are through the roof, deservingly so. He's an exceptional talent, a generational talent, like genuinely generational talent. But I personally, I look at the end of last season and the playoffs are a different beast. Absolutely. But Ivan Demidov played 8 games last year, had 4 points, and only 2 of the games that he played in are games where he got points. The last game of the season, I saw him not looking particularly, not as engaged as I would like him to be, and I can't help but worry that the grind of an NHL season is going to kind of take a toll on him, and maybe on, I don't know, a random Wednesday, he's playing against the Seattle Kraken in Seattle and doesn't give a fuck. Yeah, I just, I can see a world where that happens at least a handful of times, and that just gives me pause. I still think he's absolutely the favorite to win the Calder, for the record. I'm not taking anything away from him, but I think a lot of people are looking at point per game season as a rookie for Demidov. I think that's not the world that I see happening, frankly, but I would love to see it, for the record, because again, big fan. And for the record, any Habs fans that are ready to come at me for this one now, I wanted the Blackhawks to draft Demidov. Zane will vouch for me. I was pulling for Demidov in the draft. I am a big believer. I genuinely think he's a generational talent. And speaking of generational talents, I'll get to my other potential pitfall in Lane Hutson. Already alluded to it, but anybody can say what they want to. I just think that offensive defensemen in their sophomore season, they're in a really hard position, and I wouldn't be too surprised to see teams playing Lane Hutson harder than they did in his rookie season. So I think you just want to be mindful of that. Like I said, it's nothing that you can't work around, especially with, again, one of the best coaches in the league, in my opinion. But just be mindful of it, man. Be on the lookout for, I don't know, elbows McGee on the Florida Panthers when Lane Hutson's on the ice. You know what I mean? Just be careful. That's all. It's not a knock to Lane Hutson, but it is a matter of people being more aware of him after he, really lit the league on fire last year. So, yeah, I think that's all for me. Big fan, very excited to watch them play.
I think they're similar to me to how Utah is in the West, right? They're very similar in terms of this is a team.
Yeah, maybe a year or two behind Utah, but yes, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Next,
excited to see it.
Talk about teams that have been knocking around for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
The Ottawa Senators. Man, I feel like I do like this team. I to be fair, Dylan Cousins stan. So the addition of that already, I'm a big fan of the team. I like the structure. I've always liked Claude Giroux. I know he's a dinosaur. But I do like him.
It's a dinosaur. Your mic cut out. I didn't realize you said dinosaur at first. Sorry.
Dinosaur. Great player though. I still think he's still an all-time playmaker. Someone you can rely on in those moments. Perron is really weird. He'll another dinosaur, but will score.
Yeah. He and Drew are a very similar archetype right now, honestly.
Yes. Yeah, and you got Zetterlund, Tim Stützle, Kachuk now, Pinto, and you've added Cousins. 2 Cousins, by the way, Dylan and Nick. You already had. You didn't add him, but you do have 2 Cousins now, and maybe more, realistically. But I don't have their family trees in front of me. But no, I like the team makeup. I won't belabor the point. I think the Cousins joke was a little bad, so I'll move on to
He's getting bashful, dude. He's embarrassed on cam. Oh no.
the Senators are making my board in the
Yeah.
first wild card spot for the East.
Yep. Heck yeah.
Yeah, I this team was good last year, and I think they made the playoffs. So like,
Yep.
can't argue with the experience that they gained, and they did
Yep.
that after acquiring Cousins, get rid of a pretty big player in Josh Norris, which I thought might
Mm-hmm.
upset
The
maybe
room.
the chemistry or
Yep.
sort of the balance, but not really. Not that they really ended the season in like some wild fashion, but like 6-2-2 is still pretty decent. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
8 games where you get points out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see it. I like this team. Like I said, I like the makeup. There's a lot of players that are taking like steps forward, so they're not like in this
Yeah.
like our players going to stay forward. They're actively like Stutzla had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
Cousins is having a good year. I already said Stutzla, but Kachuk is up there. He's making those years happen. I mean, the only one that you're like, if he achieves, this team's really going to pay off is Zetterlund. I
Mm-hmm.
think like if he sort of plays the way that he was playing in San Jose and sort of takes a step forward as well, he's gonna be a nasty player.
Yep.
So I'd like this team. I mean, they didn't really need to add anything to their top six. I don't think. I think Lars Eller is a decent add to their bottom six. Kind of a dinosaur too.
Yeah.
I say that for pre-90s people. I'm sorry. That's a 89. But let's go through their defense. Shabbat. We all know we like a little Thomas
Yeah,
in
dude.
our life. Pretty good defenseman. Jake Sanderson, good defenseman. Artem
Elite.
Zub, I think is kind of underrated.
Same.
Um, and I think Carter Yakimchuk might make it into the league this year.
That would frankly surprise me, but
You think so?
I wouldn't make that decision, but in your, not in your defense, I guess, but to your point, they almost put him in the NHL last preseason. Like they gave him way more runway than I would have. So yeah, he might.
Who knows? Who knows? But I think their defensive core is okay. Like not as good as the Canadiens, but decent enough. I think good enough to carry them into the wild card spot.
Yeah.
I don't think they're bad in any sense of the word. And you just expect Linus to, you know,
Linus.
be Linus. So like I like this team.
Yeah.
They're not as potent as you might not want on offense, right? Some of those younger players, they're not as like consistent, I guess. Like
Sure.
they're not potent. I guess potent is the right word. I mean, I just like some nights they just don't the teeth don't feel like they're there. You just hope that I mean they made the playoffs. I think they're gonna do that again. Similar spot. I
Mm-hmm.
like the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I listen, the more Canadian teams the better. Maybe I I like this pick. I like the Senators. I think
Yep.
they could be sneaky good. I don't have them in those top two spots. And there's 3 teams left and only 2 spots left. So somebody's being left out of that top 3. I'll put that
Whoa.
out there.
I didn't like put that together in my head, honestly. That's kind of crazy. Wow.
But yeah, this team is good. I see it have them making the first wild card spot. I like the Sens a lot. I like their goaltending. Their decor is okay.
Yep.
But I really like their new with Cousins. I think they pack a little bit more extra punch than they did with.
Valid. I'm with you for the record. I have them in the second wild card spot, 5th in the Atlantic. But I also have them making the playoffs. And I think like one of the things that gets me here is like they've done a really good job of including complementary players to like in spots that it's like warranted. Like to your point about Giroux and Perron, I'm gonna throw Zetterlund in here too, but like those two guys, even though they are dinosaurs as it were, they are at a point in their career where they're like they've shown and proved for years now that they are going to do whatever they need to do to just play winning hockey and help the team find success. So so that's why they're still so serviceable in my opinion, at least, despite
Yeah,
being
and I
again
guess like
dinosaurs.
when I say dinosaur, I'm mostly joking about the age because I would imagine
Yeah.
like they play like Velociraptor. They're cool dinosaurs. I want to
Yeah,
make
in all
that
honesty,
clear.
it's a good analogy, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but although much younger, obviously, Fabian Zetterlund, another really like good complementary player,
Compliment.
a guy that you want in your team. And honestly, like throw Lars Eller in there too as a complementary player,
Yeah.
a guy that's, got longevity, plays a game that like you don't need him to be the Tim Stützle of your line, as it were, right? Like you don't need him to be Brady Tkachuk kind of impact, but you need him to you need him to be dependable, and they have at least one guy that you know exactly what you're going to get out of them on every line here on Daily Faceoff. So I'm a big fan of that. Also, shout out Ridley Gregg, Toronto Maple Leafs fans in shambles for me to be shouting out Ridley Gregg specifically, but that is a dog, dude. That's a guy I want on my team, clapping pucks on empty nets for my team.
Yeah.
Just really pissing off
Okay.
the other team, especially come playoff time. But I think I was kind of chiming in along with you about the decor. I think Artem Zub is underrated as well. I think Jake Sanderson is top 10 defenseman in the NHL kind of easily, in my opinion. I might even have him higher than that. I'm a big fan of Jake Sanderson, though. That's all I'm saying. Also, a very big fan of Thomas Chabot. That is one of my favorite players. Love him, love him. And the rest of these guys, no offense, Clevin, Spence, and Jensen, but they're a little bit more plug and play kind of guys.
Yeah.
Again, though, dependable, I would say. You know what you're getting out
Yeah.
of them. Guys that I would be happy to have on my team. And there's like potential here, depending on like how much Levi Marilainen plays. There is potential for Marilainen and Olmark to be the best tandem in the NHL, I think, in all
Yeah.
honesty. So,
And I
yeah,
feel
I'm
like with
excited.
Linus,
So,
we've shown that like when he has a goaltender that he's vibing with, he's playing on an all-time high. So just get
yeah,
him a best friend, like
yeah.
recruit a best friend to play backup goalie with him.
And not for nothing, but like apparently very likable guy. So like,
Yeah.
that serves that well, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the Sens could do some damage come playoff time. Regular season, I think that they're still like outclassed by some of these teams. They still have
Yes.
that stink
At the
around them,
top.
I think, of like for years it was like I think literally the last 4 years it's been, oh, Ottawa's ready to take the next step. They're going to make the playoffs, and then they miss, and they finally just got in there this year. So I can't give them like the benefit of the doubt to say that they're going to be like you
Yeah.
know a healthy like safely in the playoffs with Montreal taking a step. But I have faith in them to be there, honestly. So yeah,
Go Sens. Go
go
Sens.
Sens indeed. Honestly,
I have an
excited to see it.
old Robin Leonard jersey of the Senators,
Facts,
and that
dude.
is from so
Don't
long
you
ago.
also have an
Robin
Eric
Leonard.
Carlson jersey from the
No, I
Sens?
don't. Just the no,
No?
just the yeah,
Ah,
just the Robin Leonard Sens jersey. Their alternate that has like the O on it.
yep, yep. Anywho,
Yeah. Anywho, on to the next team, which like this is where you get to the point where we know what we're getting with some of these teams. Although there's this,
not really. You got somebody missing the
yeah,
playoffs.
I do have a surprise in here, and I'm tell you what, it is Panthers. The Florida Panthers are not the surprise. They're making the
Okay, so
playoffs.
the Panthers are making the playoffs. Okay.
Yeah, the Panthers are definitely making the playoffs. I mean, is there any? I mean, I have them seed only because the
Mm-hmm.
regular season doesn't matter for them,
Yep.
and they placed third. Like they placed third in the Atlantic, and they cleared house. So like, yeah, I'm just Florida. They are in the second spot in the Atlantic. I have them in. Yeah, they're. I think they have a really good. I don't want it to happen, but I think they have a really good chance to three-peat. I don't see a team that their style is stuff. They remind me a lot, like a better version of the LA Kings in the early 2010s. Just a
Sure.
better version of that team
Yeah.
somehow. Just grind you down. Like it's hockey that can be hard to watch, but then they spin it, and I think this is where they separate from the Kings, where they have that offensive potency and that scoring.
Sure.
Um, like high end scoring that they just throw the puck in the back of the net.
Yeah.
Feels like whenever they want to, whenever they need a goal, they'll get one.
Yep.
Um,
Sometimes even when they don't.
yep. So this team is so good. What is there to say? I think they're likely to three-peat. Yeah, the only thing that I think there's like two things.
Yeah.
One thing, Bobrovsky falls off a cliff. which I don't see. I think if we're talking
No,
about
I think
chances of
he's
bad
figured it
things
out,
happening,
but yeah, I hear you.
we're very low
Yeah.
on that sheet. And then I just feel like, injuries start to, just length,
That's it. Yep.
usage. Yeah, the rubber starts coming off. That was their third consecutive Stanley Cup. That's a lot of hockey.
Yep.
So much hockey to be playing.
Yep.
The only thing I can see maybe is that the fatigue starts to set in, like just long-term fatigue, playing hockey for so long. Again, I feel like they've already proven that that's not the case, so I don't feel like that's likely. I have them in the second spot, and again, I think the three-peat, I think they have a very good chance. I just think no other team is as obvious as like a Stanley Cup contender as the Florida Panthers. So
yeah.
So I gotta say, I mean, what else is there to say? The team's stacked, they're loaded. This is what it felt like to be in the Blackhawks' heyday, the Kings' heyday, to be living the Penguins' heyday. This is what it's like,
Yep.
The embarrassment of riches. You're winning games. Wait 3 to 4 years, they're trying to sell all these parts off. But right now, they're doing great. They love it. I hate it.
Yeah, valid. And yeah, there's not too much to say. Although I do have I get probably like a hot take, but I think like if you hear me out, it's not that hot. I have the Panthers in the second wild card spot, but I have them like safely in the second wild card spot.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that they're going to be like they have this shit figured out at this point that like they know what they need to do to make the playoffs for sure. And moreover, they know what they need to do once they get into the playoffs. But it's just about getting there. And yeah, to your point about like the Kings dynasty, I shouldn't call these teams dynasties, sorry, but like the run of greatness from the Kings, the Blackhawks, Penguins, and the Tampa Bay Lightning, they all get to that point at some point. Like the Blackhawks, I know got to that point in like 2014, I think, is once they started to be like, we're just gonna make it in and then we'll figure it out from there. The Kings probably like also 2014 that they figured that out. But anyway, all teams get to that point, and I think in the life cycle of greatness, if you will, for the Panthers here, I think that they started to show that a little bit last year. They
storing your energy for the play. You're just like, I'm in. I'm playing our hard.
Yeah, they clearly didn't like feel a need to they clearly didn't feel a need to be like trying to win the President's Trophy. And I think that's the right way to approach the NHL season, if I'm being honest. But but yeah, so I think that they get in, they just do what they need to get in. I will say though, a little bit like counter to that thought is the slew of Matthew Tkachuk injuries that he's dealing with this offseason. And we already know that he's going to miss a good chunk of the season because of that. So, you logically could expect some games to not go your way because of that. But even still, I think just almost top to bottom, this team is like vets. They're going to do what they need to figure it out. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about it, honestly. And yeah, I will say, I think that your point about Bobrovsky is valid. Just like you were saying, I don't think that's what's going to happen with Bobrovsky. I think that he knows what he needs to do at this point too. Like, I think it's been really telling how like not very present he's been in all of the celebratory shenanigans post winning the cup this year. I think that he just like he knows what he needs and he is willing to stay in his bubble to accomplish that, I think. So So yeah, I'll leave it at that. There's not too much to say about this team. I think they are going to win the cup again, for the record. That's my prediction. I think they are winning the cup. Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair. Fair enough. Well, we'll go to the other Florida team, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
And you're probably thinking he probably left Toronto off because they don't have Mitch Marner. And I would say incorrect. I left Tampa Bay out of the playoffs.
Yep.
And to be honest, I just don't have the spots. Like I got to the Panthers.
Yeah, so
I got to
you
the
know
Lightning.
what I'm dealing with in this in this division too.
I got to the Lightning and I told myself, I think the world might be better off, like just if they didn't make the playoffs. Because there's not a lot negative to say other than I just think everyone would be happier with less Florida teams in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And this is the most likely team, I think, if you're like, ooh, I hope Florida team don't make the playoffs, Tampa Bay is where you're going to start. Listen, I think their offense is still stellar. Gensel's insane. Point.
Sure.
You just have all of the players, and they got 100+ points. So I'm really like, this feels a lot like the San Jose making the playoffs pick. To be honest with you, it feels like I'm really going out. This is like my big swing, my real like. I'll feel really smart if I get to be like, I told you so. But otherwise, the team's good. There's not much to say. Another part of me is like, yeah, Vasilevsky kind of was not himself last year.
Yep.
Maybe that's a sign of things to come.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know, and if I'm trying to really pull at threads here, like I think he had a down year. Maybe that's less of an anomaly, more of the new, you know, he's tired. The rubber on him is running a little, like the fatigue's finally catching up, those years of playing. I think you can make the case for that. Victor Edmond, older. You know, one of is still an elite player, but another year older. He's another one that like those kind of big defensemen also like 1 year they just disappear. You know, they don't really fall off a cliff as much as they just they vanish. They're out.
Sure.
But other than that, like I don't know how they missed the playoffs. They're not on here. They're not here.
Yeah.
They're not on the board, and the board might certainly be law. So they're not here for me. That's my surprise.
Fair enough, dude. Surprised in the other direction, potentially. I have Tampa winning the division. And I think it's almost entirely the counter of your point, if I'm being honest with you. My thought process is almost entirely the inverse. I think Vasi regresses to his mean this year. I think that was a blip last year, in all honesty. I obviously, anything and everything that we say, I could be wrong, right? But that's just kind of my feel of it. I think Vasi, like, again, regresses to the mean for him. Obviously, they're still loaded with superstars. Gensel, Point, Kucherov, nuts. Then you have Hagel last year, nuts.
Yeah, they're so good.
Deep too. And in all honesty, I was kind of feeling how you're feeling about, I was thinking that Tampa might fall off next year. And this is so weird and honestly maybe a little bit stupid, but I was feeling that until they signed Yanni Gourde to the weirdest contract of the season next to Tanner Jeannot. Because Yanni Gourde is like, he's so perfect for them, man. He's always been so perfect for them, and he's still got it. Like, he's definitely still got a lot in the tank. He's not going to for that whole contract. That I think everyone agrees about that. But right now he's exactly what you need. And like this forward group, like that's the kind of depth that wins championships, in all honesty. So like I don't think that they're winning the cup. Again, I said that Florida's winning the cup in my opinion, but this is a gross forward group. Just so solid. But anyway, I think Hedman's still got a lot left in the tank, honestly. I think he takes care of himself, and like, you know, just like
I'm pulling at threads here. I
know. But yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I do think Ryan McDonough, his career is about to fall off a cliff at some point soon here, though, as well. JJ, another player I have a jersey of, for the record. Nothing but respect for McDonough. JJ Mosier, I think, is interesting. I thought last year was a chance for him to like really break out with the Tampa Bay Lightning. It didn't happen, but you never know. Maybe there's still something to be had there. Eric Chernak, I think, is one of the more underrated defensemen in the NHL, honestly. A big fan of him. And Lilleberg, more plug and play. Darren Radish was phenomenal this past season, in all honesty. Like, was going on tears where he was on the power play and just, I'm not going to say carrying the team, because, like, you know, the team's too good for him to carry them, but like far exceeding expectations. Yeah. So shout out to him. And I think I don't know how they're holding it down with Jonas Johansson as their backup, but you got Vasilevsky, so I guess it doesn't matter too much.
Don't matter, especially when you're talking about a forward group that put up like 7 goals if they try hard enough.
Yeah. But yeah, so I've got Tampa Bay first in the division, and to segue us on, that is a little bit of a statement about the team that came in first last year. So, Zane, Toronto Maple Leafs, what are you thinking?
Yes, the regular season merchants, the number one regular season merchant. I'm making a lot of friends here. I know it. Yeah, of course I have the Maple Leafs in the one spot. That's what they do. We're
Sure.
talking about regular season, not playoffs. I'm not worried about it at all.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm being honest, yeah, they're making the playoffs easy. They're winning the one spot. They're taking the Atlantic crown. Yeah, I think they lost Marner. That's cool. Um,
That's cool.
they're still scoring a ton. You still have really solid players. The team is still good. Like I said, the regular season doesn't. I think that you're losing. I may be understating losing 100 player, but that was you had multiple 100 point players, and you have players that are capable.
Yep.
So I've listen, like again, what is there to say about the Leafs? I don't even want to talk about them, other than the fact that the regular season merchants, they'll make the playoffs, and that's all I want to talk about. I'm ready to move on from the Maple Leafs. You could go.
Fair enough, brother. Yeah, I do like again, like kind of counter to what you're saying. Not really, because you did say that it is significant, but I think losing Marner, I think I think it impacts their ability to be regular season merchants for good and bad. In all honesty, and I want to say before I say anything else about Marner, I do not buy into the theory that like he's the reason that they keep losing.
No.
Like that, I think that's kind of an asinine take in all honesty. But but I do think like there's something to be said about like emptying the tank in the regular season, and that is, I think, what this team has been doing for a long time now. And I think
Yeah.
Marner has done that, in all honesty. I think Matthews is doing that too. So I I don't know, man. I guess part of me just feels like this team's ready to change their identity for the most part, although I'm not totally sure what to make of Matthews in that equation, like from a culture standpoint. I just genuinely I don't know very much, but like Matthew Nyes now is in a position to be like a really pivotal piece for this team. And I guess he was last year, but like it's different now that Marner's gone, I think, right? Like there's more pressure on Nyes to be like that guy, if you will.
Yeah.
And I could see him like just stepping up to the plate and having a more of an impact. But anyway, I see this team. I have them second in the Atlantic, so just behind the Lightning. I do think that they're not as good of a team anymore. Not as good of a regular season team, at least without Marner. I don't have a whole bunch of faith in this D core, if I'm being honest. Although I do think Chris Tanev and Jake McCabe are solid. Especially Tanev. I think he's super underrated.
Carlo's
Carlo's also super solid. Yep. But Morgan Riley, I think publicly there's a dialogue around Morgan Riley that there's just question marks surrounding him. Simone Benoit, good. Nothing to knock on Simone Benoit, honestly. And OEL, I think, is a little bit weird too, but he was like good enough, I think, with them last year. So I guess we'll see how it shakes out. But like, 4 out of 6 guys that I'm saying personally, I feel like are solid. That's a decent spot to be in. But
yeah.
To me, there's you want to see somebody on your back end, like a Cale Makar or a Victor Hedman, like a guy that like really sets the tone for your defensive identity. And I think right now that's probably Tanev, and the tone being set, your identity being established there is gritty, stay at home, do your job kind of a player. And you can certainly find success with that. So it's just again, I think that there isn't like a big name blowing the doors off guy on the back end, but maybe Tanev is who you want to be setting the tone anyway. So outside of that, Stolars and Woll proved to be great last year. I have no reason to think that they won't be great again this year, honestly.
Yeah. Weirdly able to churn out goalies for some reason there.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah, it is kind of weird, honestly. But so yeah, I think it all comes back to the forward group, and I do think the forward group is just marginally worse without Marner now. So But I have them making the playoffs. Like I said, second in the division. I could see a world, honestly, where Montreal is ahead of Tampa. But Toronto feels like a safer bet for me, honestly. So I do want to take a second. I know we haven't called out like playoff expectations for any other team at this point. Well, we've alluded to it with like the Panthers and all that, right? But I do know that we got a comment from Daniel, I think was the commenter's name, but curious to hear our thoughts of the Maple Leafs come playoff time. So I do want to take a second just to say I think I don't know that it's going to be a whole lot different, honestly. And I think like maybe it hinges on Matthews, but like you know, I'll say it, even though I know that a Maple Leafs fan is watching, so I'm sorry. You're not going to like what I think here, but I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs media is the problem in Toronto. I think that these guys, like, you know, you can make the argument that they make all these millions, they should be willing to deal with the scrutiny that comes with it. At the end of the day, they're human beings, and me personally, I don't want to say this as a certainty at all for Matthews, but a guy like Matthews, you know, you see his demeanor in interviews, you see the way his demeanor shifts during interviews and during the season. And me personally, if I'm making a read on a guy, that to me feels like a guy who the media could get to him. You know what I mean? Like you could get to him and just kind of check him out a little bit.
He's not
So
having fun.
sometimes, yeah. And I don't think that he's going anywhere or anything like that. Like that's not what I'm trying to say. I just like, you know, again, we're all human beings and we all hear this shit that the media says. And there's at least a handful of guys here that I can't help but feel like are probably, you know, impacted by it. That's all. And I don't think Matthews is the problem. I don't think that they like can't win a cup with Matthews, nothing like that. It's just I just don't think that Marner was the problem, like I said before. So
Yeah,
I don't see too much change in come playoff time, honestly.
I don't think I do either, and that's just like, and it's like I think Marner being gone is like you said, it's like it does make an impact. I think he wasn't really doing anything in the playoffs for this team,
Yeah,
but
just
at the
yelling
same
at the
time,
bench, getting no response. I would love to see how many people rolled their eyes when Marner was yelling at the bench this last offseason.
yeah, I think the leadership structure is still the same. I think
Yeah.
mostly the identity is still the same.
Yep.
Most of the mantra, like I think for something that has had as much struggle as them in the playoffs and not changing their identity and not changing, like you either have to make huge changes, you either break it all down or you don't.
Yep.
So I just think they didn't break it all down. They were just like, well, they got rid of Marner, they added some players. What can you say? The team, I don't, I'm with you. I think the media is like you can get to a point where you're toxic, right? Where it's just
Yep.
like, attention is one thing, but also being toxic or just being like, kind of the media can sometimes be a dick to players just because of
Yeah,
what they
especially
ask
there,
or
honestly. Yeah.
what like kind of leading questions they like
Yep.
to ask or whatever.
Yep.
But I think it has, like I said, I think it has a lot to do with like I don't know their leadership structure, and I think we talk a lot. I think we've had this discussion before about like sandpaper type players.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't had any shortage of those. I just think you're missing their top players, their top six players, just putting on a little bit of that grit and showing the players in the bottom six that like will score and be gritty.
Yeah.
I think you still don't really see that. I think there's glimpses, but you don't see enough of that from the top stars, from Austin Matthews type. Like,
Yeah.
what you like. I hate to bring up their nemesis is in the Bruins, but like
Yeah.
Marchand, we're talking about Marchand, a goal scorer and an agitator, like,
Yep.
and somebody that could like he could do both. You have Domi, but like he's not really putting up numbers like that. So I think their true problem is the fact that their top six players, you don't they're pure scorers and they're playmakers and they can put points up, but that's kind of where they feel like their job ends. I don't think they
Yeah.
do the other stuff. Like you had their goalie getting elbowed and nobody really doing anything, and I know that
Yeah.
kind
Nobody even
of
batted an
irritated too,
eye.
but like That is really bad. Like,
Yeah.
even just to visualize, just to show the people at home that you care, you should be throwing fists with somebody, right? Just
Yep.
so you don't get ridiculed. Like, even if you're not like, I like this guy, I want to protect, and that's what it feels like. Like, you gotta
Yeah.
like your goalie. How is he not? How is he getting elbowed in the head and not like? That's to me. You're just
Most important
missing.
guy on the ice, man. Full
Yeah,
stop.
you're just missing that gritty. Like, and I hate that sort of phrase, but I think
And
you're
I
missing
do
that
too. Yeah, but I
as an
think it's true.
addition to your top
Yep.
players.
Yep. I agree with you.
Yeah, Nylander's not doing that. Marner wasn't doing that.
Matthews not
Matthews
doing
doesn't
it.
really do it.
Tavares not
Tavares
doing it.
doesn't do it. Yeah, I just that's what I feel that you're missing from this team.
Yep. I am
You've
with you,
always
brother.
had it. Let's look at all the top playoff teams that have always had it. Taves had a mean streak to him.
Yep.
Ryan O'Reilly from that Blues team, score and the mean streak, the grittiness. Go all the way back. I mean, there's just so many of these teams that have these type players that can score and be gritty. You just don't see that from Toronto. You don't see that. You got the Matthew Tkachuk. Like, that's the identity of teams that are winning now.
Yeah, I want to interject there because I want no. You're nothing to be sorry for. You set me up perfectly. That's why I want to interject. I saw a clip not too long ago. It's from 2 years ago, I think, but it's of Paul Maurice, and he's being asked, what he loves about the team, or like what's their key to success or something like that. And he references an exit interview that he had with Matthew Tkachuk. And apparently during all exit interviews at the end of the year, he asks them what they like about the team. And Matthew Tkachuk's answer was that anybody is happy to play with anybody else. And in between the lines, if you will, the subtext there is that everybody's willing to do whatever they're supposed to on their line. And that's what I think is missing from the Maple Leafs here. Like, you have guys like Nylander or Matthews or Tavares who, like, their job is to score, just like you're saying. Their job is not to go out on the ice and do whatever the moment requires. It's to do their job, their specific role. And I think that's just what's missing here. So yeah, Paul Maurice, incredible hockey mind. And I think that's a very, very salient point, if you will, that the team that's going to win, everybody needs to be happy to play with everybody else and do whatever they're supposed to on the line. So, anywho, that said, brother, we've reached the conclusion of the division, the conclusion of all of the league. Yeah?
Yes, we have. And the board is full. I'll make sure that, I'll probably take this off the board, but I'll remember it to hold myself accountable mid-season and at the end of the season.
Yeah, we'll definitely check in on these predictions for sure. I will real quick. Why don't we both actually? Why don't you give us the league's worth of playoff teams as a reminder?
Yeah, of course. So in the East, the Metro, the top three spots go to the Canes in the number 1, the Washington Capitals number 2, and then the Devils number 3. And then the Atlantic Division, you're starting with Toronto number 1, Florida Panthers number 2, Canadiens 3, and then for both the wild cards and the spots, I gave 1 to each division, with the first one going to the Senators and the second one going to the Flyers. And then in the West, the Central number 1 spot goes to the Avs, 2 spot Stars, 3 spot Jets. The Central Division is packed.
Yep.
Over in the West, you have the Pacific, the weaker division. I have Edmonton second, Vancouver in the 3rd spot, and then your 2 wildcard teams being Utah and number 2, the San Jose Sharks.
All right, and for me,
that's it.
For me, I'm not going to break it down by conference, but the order that I have the Eastern standings, I've got Carolina first, Carolina winning the President's Trophy. Shout out to that real quick. But Carolina first, New Jersey second, Tampa Bay third, Toronto fourth in the East, Montreal fifth in the East. Sixth in the East is Florida. Seventh, I've got Ottawa. And then I actually have Detroit in 8th and Columbus in 9th, but Detroit is missing the playoffs. Columbus is making in the second wildcard spot. And then in the West, I've got Vegas at the top, Winnipeg 2nd, Dallas 3rd, Edmonton 4th, Colorado 5th, Minnesota 6th, Utah 7th, and Anaheim 8th. for all of the playoff teams in the West as well. But just like you had said there, Zane, we will check in on these, at points during the season. Halfway point makes sense, like you said to me. But for now, folks, longest video that we've had yet. So bid you adieu. As always, if you're here at this point at the very end, shout out to you. Thank you. Definitely give us a like, subscribe. We'll be back at it with more content, especially as the season actually starts to get going. But yeah, thank you again, and we will see you soon. Bye for now, folks.